Greetings and welcome to today's segment of Front Page, where every weekday I summarize and find the most interesting parts of the day's headlines from 5 different newspapers from around the world. My quest is to weed out the facts as they're reported in each newspaper, and I'll do my very best to find the most interesting stories out there. I'm your host, Murad Hamami. Let's get started here at home in Turkey, and let's take a look at the Daily Sabah. Big headline. World on alert as hope for diplomacy fades in Ukraine. Okay, so Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan postponed his upcoming visit to Guinea-Bissau as he will now attend the NATO leaders' summit on Ukraine amid Russia's move to recognize separatist Luhansk and Donetsk regions as independent statelets. Now, to know more about this, we are going to join our guest in a few minutes, but let me tell you a little bit more about this story. So, we know that Russia is moving into the eastern part of Ukraine and is attacking, well, we don't know it's attacking. Putin has said that he is there to protect the Russian separatists in the region. Now, we know for a fact that only 1/3 of the region has the Russian separatists and 2/3 have the independent, or the Luhansk and the general Donbass region of civilians living there. Now, the problem is, do we know, is Russia, will she stand there and just protect those regions there, or will Russia then continue with the tanks and move further west towards inside Ukraine, and will they head towards Kiev itself? Right, am I going to be joined by my guest? I'm expecting my guest. I don't know if she's coming yet. We don't know. Okay, let's continue now. Let's continue up to our next newspaper. Let's go to China Daily. Restraint urged on Ukraine issue is the headline for China Daily. Now, of course, many newspapers around the world are actually talking about this issue from different angles. Now, I wanted to show you about China because China's taken a much softer approach. Now, as you can imagine, the Chinese are reporting the issue almost on a neutral, probably not so much pro-Russia stance, but does just call for restraint. The article reads as so. State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi spoke with United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken by phone on Tuesday. Wang said that China is concerned about the evolution of the situation in Ukraine. Just concerned. Now, China's position on the Ukraine issue complies with its consistently held position that the legitimate security concerns of any country should be respected and the purposes and principles of the UN Charter should be safeguarded. Now, the evolution of Ukraine issues so far is that closely related to the delay in the effective implementation of the new Minsk agreement. Now, that's what China says. Now, we know that Putin came out just today and said, or just this morning, and said that the Minsk agreement is now null and void. Now, China went on to say, or China Daily went on to say that it will continue to engage with all parties according to the merits of the matter itself. The situation in Ukraine is deteriorating, and China again will call on all parties to exercise restraint, ease the situation, and resolve differences through dialogue. Okay, so it seems that China, as you can see, doesn't seem to think Russia is doing anything wrong. Now, on the flip side, let's take a look at 2 newspapers from the United Kingdom. First, the more sensible Guardian. The Guardian has gone up with just the news. War threat grows as Putin backs Ukraine, proxy states. This is pretty much the main headline on every single newspaper from north to south, from east to west. If you've missed the news, I'll give you a synopsis of it. Vladimir Putin has said that Russia will support the territorial claims of its proxy states in eastern Ukraine, dramatically increasing the likelihood of a larger war in the near future in what Joe Biden denounced as an attempt to to carve out a big chunk of the country. Those were Joe Biden's words. Now, in a dramatic move, Germany halted the approval process for the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline from Russia, while the EU and the UK announced sanctions on Russia in a show of concerted Western resolve, with EU foreign ministers banning Russian bond trades in the European market. Now, Boris Johnson revealed a package of asset freezes on 5 Russian banks and 3 high-net-worth individuals, but faced criticism from his MPs for not going further. The UK, US and EU made it clear that they were prepared to escalate sanctions in line with Russian actions. And on Tuesday evening, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said that the meeting with his Russian counterpart, Sergei Lavrov, that had been scheduled for Thursday would not go ahead. Right, let's see what he said there. We've put together a small package for you to have a look. Take a look at this.
Now that we've heard it directly from President Putin himself, it confirms what we've been saying, that he did not send more than 150,000 troops to the Ukrainian border because of benign military exercises, or to respond to threatened aggression from Ukraine, or to stop a fabricated genocide by Ukraine, or any other manufactured reason. His plan all along has been to invade Ukraine, to control Ukraine and its people, to destroy Ukraine's democracy, which offers a stark contrast to the autocracy that he leads, to reclaim Ukraine as a part of Russia. I agreed to meet Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov this week, on February 24th, to discuss our country's respective concerns about European security, but only if Russia did not invade Ukraine. Now that we see the invasion is beginning, and Russia has made clear its wholesale rejection of diplomacy, it does not make sense to go forward with that meeting at this time. I consulted with our allies and partners, all agreed. And today I sent Foreign Minister Lavrov a letter informing him of this.
Secretary Blinken.
Right, you're back with me. Of course, today is all about Russia, Ukraine, and what's going on. Like I said at the beginning, we were going to take a look at 2 newspapers from the UK. First, we went with The Guardian, that took a very sensible look. But let's see the more aggressive attack from the Daily Mirror. Big red writing, "Get dirty Russian money out of UK now." Now, that's obviously very clear what they're talking about. Our famous, furious MPs demanded an end to the London laundromat, which allows dirty Russian cash to flow through the city. And today, after Vladimir Putin's troops invaded Ukraine, Boris Johnson announced sanctions against 3 billionaire oligarchs and 5 banks in retaliation for Kremlin forces launching action, like we know, as I said, in the breakaway regions of Luhansk and Donetsk. Now, the Prime Minister told the Commons, quote, "Any assets that they hold in the UK will be frozen. The individuals concerned will be banned from travelling here, and we will," this is his quote, "we will prohibit all UK individuals and entities from having any dealings with them." Now, this is the first tranche, he said, the first barrage of what we are prepared to do. Now, his opposition, the Keir Starmer leader, leader of the opposition, Keir Starmer, said that we have failed, quote, "we have failed to stop the flow of illicit Russian finance into Britain." Quote, he said, calling for the invasion to be a turning point that the Labour added. Now, he also went on to say that they needed to end these oligarch impunity, and they needed to draw a line under Companies House, providing easy cover for shell companies who need to ensure that their anti-money laundering laws are involved. Okay, we put together another small package for you. Take a look at this.
We will now guarantee up to $500 million of development bank financing. I travelled to Kiev to meet President Zelensky on the 1st of February. I saw him again in Munich the weekend. I spoke to him again last night, soon after President Putin's speech, to assure him, as I'm sure the whole House would agree, was the right thing to do. I assured him of Britain's unwavering support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And now the UK and our allies will begin to impose the sanctions on Russia that we have already prepared, using the new and unprecedented powers granted by this House to sanction Russian individuals and entities of strategic importance to the Kremlin. Today, the UK is sanctioning the following 5 Russian banks: Rossiya, IS Bank, General Bank, Promzyaz Bank, and the Black Sea Bank. And we are sanctioning 3 very high net worth individuals: Gennady Timchenko, Boris Rottenberg, and Igor Rottenberg. Any assets they hold in the UK will be frozen. The individuals concerned will be banned from travelling here. And we will prohibit all UK individuals and entities from having any dealings with them. This is the first tranche, the first barrage of what we are prepared to do.
Well, you're back with me again. Okay, so as we say, we'll continue with the Russia-Ukraine crisis, and let's see how each newspaper from around the world are reporting on these. We spoke to Turkey. We know that Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan will meet in NATO. We'll have a NATO summit. We know that's going to be online. We went on to China, who took a very neutral stance. England there, in the UK, The Guardian was pushing for a more neutral, or The Guardian was talking neutrally. The Mirror went a bit crazy and wanted all Russians out. The last newspaper today, last but not least, is the one is the Wall Street Journal from the United States, and they've gone with a headline. Same story: West hits Moscow with sanctions, but a slightly different take on it. Now, the article was a more concise roundup of the sanctions news. Now, Western nations on Tuesday punished Russia with new sanctions for ordering troops into the separatist region. We know that. Now, this all happened just a couple of days ago. The United States and the European Union and Britain announced plans to target banks and elites, while Germany halted a major gas pipeline project from Russia, which they said has amassed more than 150,000 troops near Ukraine's border. Now, Moscow has denied planning an invasion. Okay, now we'll move on to this. One of the worst security crises in Europe in decades is unfolding as Russian President Vladimir Putin orders soldiers into Donetsk and Luhansk to keep the peace. Now, the Washington Journal went on to say that this has been dismissed as, or Washington itself, the White House has said this has been dismissed and that it is nonsense. Now, satellite imagery over the past 24 hours shows several new troops and equipment deployments in Western Russia, and more than 100 vehicles are at a small airfield in southern Belarus, which borders Ukraine. Now, this is according to the US firm Maxar. So weeks of intense diplomacy have so far failed, and on Tuesday, both US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian cancelled separate meetings scheduled with Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. US sanctions are being applied to FEB Bank and Russia's military bank, difficult to pronounce this one, Promysivizia Bank, which does defense deals, according to Biden. Now, starting on Tuesday, sanctions will begin against Russian elites and their family members also. Washington has also said that it has restricted dealings in the secondary market with Russia's sovereign debt for bonds issued after March the 1st. Foreign Affairs Minister Sergei Lavrov just brushed off the sanctions. So it seems that Russia has not taken it too seriously with these sanctions. Perhaps the West, when we call it the West, the UK, US, and Europe, the EU, have to place further sanctions to perhaps stop Russia's movement from Donetsk and west towards Ukraine. Right, I've given you a synopsis of the 5 top newspapers around the world. We went from Daily Sabah, as I said, to the UK, 2 newspapers there. We went to China, a very neutral stance, and now the Wall Street Journal. That wraps up the hot headlines for today. Be sure to tune in tomorrow at the same time. Well, I'll be here trying to give you a synopsis so you don't have to read all the newspapers from around the world. I'm your host, Murad Hamami.